Hey guys, so recently I've been looking at changing some of the exterior bulbs on my 2013 Mini Cooper S. So 2013, that's the R56, it's the Series 2, the sort of towards the end of the run of those cars. Now my car has the bi-xenon front headlight option, and I believe the rear lights are also LED. However, I feel that the number plate lights and the marker lights, so that's the lights that sit in the front bumper, similar to where the fog lights are, those are still the traditional type of bulbs, and subsequently they give off a yellow light, which I feel, it looks a little bit dated now, and especially with the xenon lights and the LED rays, I feel that it would look nicer if those remaining lights were made LED. Now, I appreciate we also have on this car the fog lights, but I've chosen to leave those alone because I don't use them unless it's foggy, and I'm not sure on what the impact would be of replacing those bulbs in terms of how well they would perform in the fog. So, when I started looking into changing these bulbs, I realised it wasn't quite as straightforward as I thought. Now, the modern car has something called CANbus, which I'm no mechanic, but basically I believe all the electrical items on the car kind of like talk to each other via a network. It's used for things like monitoring faults, and subsequently a lot of people have found when they replace the bulbs with non-standard or non-factory bulbs, you can get warnings on the dash to indicate a fault with the bulb. So subsequently what you've got to do is find bulbs that are known as CANbus compliant, and this in itself was quite a challenge. Now, my first sort of point of call was the dealer, because I noticed that newer Minis seem to have those lights, LED, they give off the whiter light. That was a non-starter. The dealer didn't believe there was any upgrade option, or he also didn't believe that if I fitted the bulbs from a newer model it would work. So I abandoned that idea and I looked at retrofit. So the next thing, speaking to some friends who've already tried it, the cheap eBay option didn't seem like that was worth doing either. The people who've tried that, who I know have either had immediate bulb errors on the dash, they've had so when they lock the car up and walk away, the number plate lights are flashing, because presumably the system gives off a low current even when the vehicle's parked, or they've had a short lifespan of the bulbs themselves. So I decided to not go down the cheap eBay road. So then I came across a bulb website that just seems to sell bulbs. I'll put links on the bottom of this video later, but I've come across these bulbs, and they seem to be pretty good. They have really good reviews. The brand 20 isn't familiar to me. I did spend some time initially looking at companies such as Bosch and Philips, but the reviews of these bulbs seem to come out better. So I'm going to go ahead and fit these to the car, and I'll hopefully show you how to do that, and I will also report back as to how these bulbs work for me. Okay, thanks. Okay, so as you can see, I've now got the cover removed from the bulb. I've already taken that one off, but the way to get it off is you just find it, put a screwdriver in the right hand side, the slot, put your hand on the cover itself, because my first attempt it actually fell off as I popped it off, so rather than risk it breaking, just put your hand there and then ease it off with the screwdriver. It's very simple. It's a little bit unnerving, feels like you've broken it, but okay, so let's get this bulb out. Okay, so I've got the first bulb out, and I thought before I open the packaging for the new ones, I thought I'd just double check. They look the same, and I think they do. Little note on removing the bulb. So I initially tried to remove it with a screwdriver. I was being very, very gentle, because access is quite limited, and you'll see that when you remove the cover. So I realised I needed to, rather than prise it out, I needed to just kind of hook it somehow and sort of pull it down. What I actually used was a cake skewer with a hooked end, and I managed to just get the hook around the edge of the bulb and pull it. So that's just a note. Another note that I didn't mention actually is when you're taking this cover off, the screwdriver goes in the slot, but what you're not doing is you're not prising like that. What you got to do is basically move it like that. That's the key. If you prise it, you'll basically break the housing. So you put the screwdriver in, as I say, put your hand there so to prevent it from falling, and then push it away from the slot, or against the slot, if that makes sense. So just a note on that. Okay, so next thing to do, we'll get these packaging opened and we'll see if we can get the bulbs in. Okay, so got both the bulbs in. I've just thought I would show you one of them in place. Now they're quite fiddly to put in, as were they were to remove, but there isn't really any trick with it other than just to take your time and obviously prevent yourself dropping it on the floor. You know, sort of try to, maybe even have an assistant there ready to catch it, because it is fiddly, but once it's in, it's pretty straightforward actually getting it back in. You know, once you get it lined up, you just push it and it snaps into place. You can see the springs there on either end, the spring clips. I wouldn't be tempted to attempt to adjust those clips in any way with, you know, a screwdriver. You can see mine aren't exactly straight, and I haven't bent those. I mean, that's just the way they were, but I briefly thought about trying to straighten those with a screwdriver, but when I looked in there prior to fitting the bulb and saw the way the spring was fitted to the car, it looked to me like it was easily broken, so I chose to leave it. Anyway, so the bulb's in. Now, when I first fitted these, this bulb that we're looking at looked like it didn't work. I fitted it in the other side, and it didn't come on, so I tried the other bulb in the pack on this side, and this worked. So then I put the other bulb where we are in here, and again it didn't work. So just before I kind of abandoned the affair, thinking the bulb was faulty, I tried it the other way around, and it worked. So I didn't think it mattered which way around these went in, but perhaps it does. I'm not an expert in these things. I'll obviously monitor that, but I've run the car and so far there's no faults or anything, so I guess now it's just a case of monitoring the situation. As I say, I'll put links on the video to these bulbs and I'll report back if there's any problems. Before I go, just a quick word on the cover. So these covers, as you can see, you have on one side a spring and the other side is a clip, and the side with the clip is the side with the screwdriver slot. So to refit it, you've got to put this side in first, and then as you attempt to bring the clip in, you've got to push against that spring. It's a bit tricky with this phone, but so that's in there now, ready to go. So now I'm gonna push against that. Oops. As you can see, it's quite fiddly. Try again. Okay. And there we go, that's in. Cool. Okay, so I'm now going to attempt to replace the side light on the Mini Cooper with an LED one, and the first step is to remove this cover here. As you can see, I've turned the wheel in as far as it'll go, So let's see if we can get that off. Okay, so I've got the cover off. A little bit fiddly, had to use 2 hands, but managed it. So just check the handbook there, and it's the one we want is the upper bulb. So I'm just gonna turn that anti-clockwise, and hopefully it'll come away. Let's just give it a go. A little bit fiddly. Okay, so I've turned it about 1/4 of a turn anti-clockwise, and hopefully, and there's the bulb. So now the next step is to get the bulb out, which is just simple as that. Okay, so let's take a look at our new bulbs. Okay, so again, as before opening the packaging, it's worth having a quick check just to make sure they look like they're the correct bulbs. Obviously these look very different. They simply look like a circuit board. So what we're going to look at really is the fitment, and it's obviously a flat sort of connection similar to the old bulb. So let's open the packaging and take a closer look. Okay, so I've got to fit these bulbs, well, the first bulb, and I've been quite disappointed with the way they fit. They just didn't seem to go in far enough for me. So I was thinking of ways to get around this. I certainly don't want to modify the bulb holder on the car. I always want the option to be able to go back to the original bulbs. So what I've actually done, looking at the problem is this raised shoulder here. So if you can see the difference, this bulb, the one at the bottom of the picture, is has less of a shoulder, and the reason for that is that I've filed it away with a small file. This allows the bulb to go into the holder much further, and thus be less likely of coming loose from the vibration of driving. So we'll have a go at fitting that and see what happens next. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the new bulb fitted on the left and the traditional bulb on the right. I think in a grey it looks makes the car look a bit more modern. Okay, so I'll crack on with the other one. Okay, since I fitted the last one, I discovered that the actual bulb holder comes away from the main loom with a nice connector, so it makes this job a lot easier working on the bench, so to speak. So I've got the modified bulb fitted. As you can see, I've also applied a very thin layer of electrical tape. The main purpose of this is to provide extra strength to the edges and to some degree prevent the ingress of dust and dirt getting in there. It's not ideal, but I think it's worth doing. It is a tight fit, so don't put too much tape on here. I've only put one layer on because if you overlap them, it's likely this won't go back into the car. So as I say, I've got the slightly modified bulb, got the edges filed down. It goes into this housing better, more deeply, and I was a bit concerned that now this is going into this more deeply, there may be an issue with heat. Perhaps those parts that I filed down were there to keep this away from this, I don't know, but I'm more comfortable now because now I know this can be replaced. If this does melt or be disfigured in some way, then I can just replace this and go back to using standard bulbs. Okay, so I'm going to fit it back to the car now. Okay, so I've completed the job. The car's all back together. All the bulbs are working. However, there is a small problem, unfortunately. We'll just start her up, as you're now going to see. There we go. Front left parking light failure. So now that error does go away, as you'll see in a moment. There we go. So that's now gone. So I've got two options, well, three options. One, go back to the standard lighting, which is always a backup. Two, I'm gonna contact the bulb manufacturer, because one would think that perhaps there's a fault with one bulb only, because the bulb does light up, it's just the CANbus side of things is not right. And the third option is just live with it. So I guess the third option isn't ideal, but because the message disappears, and I'm making an assumption that the message won't come back on until I start the car, you know, switch the car off and start it back on. So I'm probably going to do options 2 and 3, I guess, because I do like the look of the car. It does look a lot better with the new bulbs in. So there you go. I hope this video has been of some help. As I say, I'll put some links in the comments below, and these bulbs are meant to be long life. There's a 3-year guarantee, I believe, on the 20 brand of bulbs. So hopefully I won't need to put a comment on to say the bulbs have blown, but of course if they do, I will let you know. Okay, so I've had the bulbs in a few days now. I've had an opportunity to drive the car around, and I thought I would just report back. So first and foremost, the bulb warning that you saw earlier, I've done a little bit more testing with that. Now, I initially thought there was a faulty bulb on the front left, which is the Sidelight, which is what the car was reporting. So what I did, I switched the two front Sidelight bulbs around, excuse me, and the warning message is still exactly the same. So I'm making an assumption that it is not a fault with one particular bulb, more a compatibility issue with the bulbs themselves and the car's CANbus system. So that is that, but I'm very happy with the bulbs themselves. They look great, and after a little bit of thought, I've decided to stick with them. I'm just going to put up with a warning. As I said earlier, you get a very quick tone when you start the car, and a warning which is displayed for about, I don't know, 5 seconds or something, and then it goes away and it doesn't appear to come back on until you switch off the car and start it back up again. So that's that. As I say, I had to, overall I've been happy with the bulbs, but I've had to modify the ones for the front side lights, as you saw earlier, to make them fit. Following the modification, the fit is a lot better. I'm pretty happy with it, but I would add that to anybody out there who's doing this work, if you fitted the bulbs in the front side light and you then, for whatever reason, withdraw the bulb holder, take care, because I do feel that there is a small risk that the bulb could get pulled away from the holder as you withdraw the holder and fall inside the lens, and it looks like it would be quite difficult to retrieve in that case. I've had the bulbs in and out a few times. Like I say, I've been testing them and things and haven't had any problems. As you saw earlier, I cut down those sort of shoulders on the bulb to allow the bulb to go into the holder further, and then I secured it with a bit of insulating tape, and it seems pretty good to me. So that's about it, really. As I say, I'll put some links to the bulbs on the comments below, and if anybody has any questions, please ask. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.